Hello my friends and welcome back. It's a new week, it's Monday, so happy Monday to you. Let's grapple this week with our new energy and smiles today. I wish I could begin this video from Ukraine with the same energy, but we have Mr. Putin here declaring a ceasefire of Easter. From 18th of April to 21st of April midnight, Putin is saying that we are the good Christians and let's stop firing. He's talking to Gerasimov right here. His face says it all, as it always does. His face has always been like that. He was born like that, with that kind of face. Well, how did the ceasefire go? It ended today, so we have the information if it really worked or not. Putin's Easter ceasefire was nothing but a charade. A show for MAGA audiences who took the bait. Fox News aired an Easter Mass from Russia. Who does it? If United States media is playing Russian Orthodox holidays videos, which is full propaganda, by the way. But the thing really is, 1 hour after Putin declared this ceasefire, we had another missile and drone attack in Ukraine, and here is a civilian apartment building on fire. Unfortunately, it didn't work. It was a play. It was fake. But we have to go into the reasons. Why is Putin doing it now? Why declare this fake ceasefire that doesn't work? Russians kept firing, Ukrainians kept firing. There was no ceasefire at all. Before we go into the reasons, here is the full statistics of that 3-day ceasefire. The total number of violations by the Russian army of Russia's own ceasefire promise throughout the day reached 2,935. So they do count every shell and every drone, every explosion is a violation of that claimed ceasefire. So about close to 3,000 drones and shells were sent out. There were 96 Russian assaults, 1,882 instances of shelling on our positions, including 812 including heavy weaponry, and 950 instances of FPV drone usage. So that is that Putin claiming 3-day Easter ceasefire. Let's respect the Christian holidays, the Christian traditions, and still, it was intended to Donald Trump, personally. It was intended to him because Trump has proved to us and to the world time and time again that he lives in a Russian information bubble. So whenever Putin says that we are the good ones, we're doing this 3-day ceasefire, Trump believes him. Alright, let's go into why Putin is playing that game at all. For those who didn't understand the Russian Groundhog Day announcements, here is a short explanation, and it's really good. When the Kremlin offers something like this, Eastern truce, for example, Russia violated all previous truces, by the way. There have been plenty of, with both sides' signatures. There have been 14 of them ever since 2014. So in the last 11 years, 14 times both sides have given their signature for a truce or ceasefire. Every time Russia has violated it. So in this case, it was just Putin saying that now we're not going to shoot anymore, and they just continued shooting. Number one, it's a ploy. Number two, they are deep in trouble and desperately need a break, because Russian foreign aggression playbook follows a very strict pattern of hit them all the time, everywhere, attack, attack, attack. But when you're weak, ask for a truce, make goodwill gestures, pull back to a better defensive position. Like, they only attack, and they don't attack when they are weak. And this 3-day ceasefire, you obviously know what it means then. Number three, it is politically beneficial. Why? Well, because Putin is playing with Trump. He's playing Trump. Trump thinks he can have any kind of leverage over Ukraine or Russia. Both are not true, by the way. And he tries to make peace in Ukraine. He doesn't understand the basics of the conflict, and he doesn't understand that Ukrainians are fighting out of survival, not out of any political reasons. So he cannot make that peace, and Russia knows that, and Russia is playing Trump. And now, when Trump and Hegseth came out with that communication that we might pull out of making peace in Russia-Ukrainian war, Putin now offers Trump this goodwill gesture, 3-day ceasefire, playing again that he would be interested in peace. In fact, Russia cannot make peace. Their entire economy is dependent on it. Putin's political power is dependent on it. They cannot make peace. They don't want to make peace. but they love playing Trump because that lessens the United States standing in the world when you weaken the image of the leader. That's what Putin is doing with the US right now. All right, number 4. They offer something they don't possess or cannot have in different way. Number 5, they want headlines being sent through the press. Yeah, and everybody's talking, and some press in the US also are praising the Russians for being the bigger guy and making that peace, although no peace, no ceasefire was ever made, not even for an hour, because we already got that missile and drone attack. Number 6, all of the above mentioned reasons. I do agree. I am waiting for that moment when Trump finally realizes that Putin has been playing him like a fiddle. I would put my money on then Trump's ego, because when he realizes that he has been lied to and played around, his ego will flare up and he will do something very impulsive, and he's very angry at Russia, and then he might, harshen the sanctions or something. So in this case, Trump's ego can actually save the situation a little bit when he finally realizes a few months later that he has been played like a fool. Continuing on the United States topic, United States and Ukraine are still discussing the mineral deal. It's not off the table. It's not over. Discussions have been going on ever since the fiasco at the White House. And now United States softens demands for Ukraine to repay past aid through mineral deal. Bloomberg. What Trump is doing, he claimed 500 billion was given as aid. Well, we have all the numbers. I made a video about what really was given to Ukraine by EU, by United States, number by number, everything. The number is about 70-80 billion, in that ballpark, that was actually sent to Ukraine in equipment, and some of it as money. The rest of the amount that the United States spent never left the US. It was poured into jobs, making weapons, producing everything to fill the stock that was sent to Ukraine, because old stuff was sent and now new stuff needs to be made. So the number could be about 70-80 billion. Well, Trump now backed down from 500 to 300 billion, and now from 300 to 100 billion. He still claims this was a loan that Ukraine needs to pay back with their minerals if they ever start mining them. But it has gone from 500 to 100 billion, which is still a floated, over-bloated number. It's about 70, but Ukraine can play with that already. Ukraine's own estimate is about 90 billion, so it's very close to it. And if they do make that deal, it will be good for Ukraine and for the United States both, because the US will get a lot of money from it, and Ukraine will get back the strongest country in the world on their side. So it's a win-win situation in my eyes. There is an issue that Trump just does not like Zelensky at all. Like, these two guys, they cannot get along. All right, my friends, now let's jump on the battlefield. I would normally do buy me a coffee members right now, but in this case, we didn't have any new ones. In the last video, I already said 2 names repetitively. So if you want to change that, buy me a coffee link is in the description below. Become a monthly member and write me a message there, and I'll be sending you this patch out to wherever you are all across the world. And in the next video, I'll be butchering your name also. But now let's jump to the battlefield, because throughout this Eastern truce, Eastern ceasefire that never existed, something else happened. For the first time, the highest altitude interception happened. Russian drone, big one, recon drone that also carries FAB bombs. In this case, it was FAB 25s. Let me see. See these ones? They are one of the smallest Russian glide bombs there are. This one was carrying those, but it was flying 4 kilometers. That's 4,000 meters high. It's quite high, and it was still intercepted by a Ukrainian drone. That's a very good accomplishment. Look at that. Boom. Of course, it was done by the legendary Birds of Magyar unit. You've all heard about him. This user also pointed out that yes, they are carrying these glide bombs. I mean, this is usually a recon drone, but they can act as a bomber also. Now we jump to a topic I already have discussed in many videos, but it is so important in these strong points on the front. For example, in Bakrovsk, Russians pushing very heavily, Ukraine is defending. Both sides are using these nets you know, life roads, as they call it, supply roads, where everything flows to the front. Without these, the front would collapse. You have to protect these roads. Both sides are using nets on the sides and on top of it. But in this case, it's a Russian video. They also have, you know, they have this life road, the nets. They also have a Bulat drone detector right here, and it starts beeping actually. It detects an FPV close by, Ukrainian FPV. These ones, they don't tell you where the FPVs are, it just detects it in a certain radius around the car, around itself. So you know one is in the area, so you better speed up. So yeah, this is what they're using to get past, to get through these life roads, supply roads, which are so vital to the front line. Everything they can, they will use to protect themselves. We have plenty of videos coming from the Ukrainian side the same way. And then we have this video we already watched in the last one, where your Russian fiber optic drone actually crawls through that net and gets inside that road and starts hunting supply vehicles and troops. Now we jump to another part in the Russian side, and they are filming for the first time on video. I mean, we have instances of there have been reports about this weapon on the front, but now it's first time on video. I bring you the North Korean 240mm M1991 MLRS, and this beast is massive. Look at it. It's one of the largest caliber MLRS on the front. I think it's the largest actually. Russians don't have this large. This is massive. Look at it. If it fires a salvo of those 240mm rockets, like choo, 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 whatever is on the receiving end, since they're so massive, the caliber is so big, I know they're not very precise, since they're North Korean, but they will cover an area quite large. What they lack in accuracy, they make up in explosions, shrapnel, fire, the chaos they make when they land. Russians made a comeback to the armored train for once. I actually made a video about Russian train addiction, because their army functions because of trains. Without them, they wouldn't work. You can see the video on my channel. It's called "The Russians Are Addicted to Trains," and they are. Their army is. But in this instance, this came out yesterday actually. It's so cool. It's one of those Frankenstein armored vehicles or tanks. It's an armored train on the front. I kid you not. We saw these when, like, in the 30s, I think. They were not even used that much in the Second World War. Some, but not much. But they were used in the First. But this is a Russian armored train. And what Ukrainians did, I mean, it's very heavily sheeted with rubber and metal. What the Ukrainians did is they just hits it in the wheels. Boom. It disables it. There's a reason the armored trains are not really popular anymore, because they just don't work with today's weaponry. It's quite easy to disable them. Going on the topic of Frankenstein inventions, here we have, they call it the folk tuning, what I would call a Frankenstein car. Look, like, Russians are having massive issues with armored vehicles right now. They're kind of scraping the barrels on their Soviet BTRs, BMPs, and T-72s. They're producing new ones, but I made a video about that also. What's the production numbers actually? It's a few hundred per month. Few hundred BTRs and tanks per month is their production right now from zero. But they're losing more than that. And they have run out their Soviet armored vehicles, so they're making these Frankenstein cars, just covering it up with rubber. And this is just old Soviet off-roader Jeep, very weak engine, but you know, you try to protect it as well as you can. Some shrapnel might be stopped by this rubber, but FPVs will do a good job with it. By the way, rubber burns like hell. If it starts up, it's very hard to stop it, so yeah. What is that? Now we jump to Moscow, my friends, because 9th of May, Den Babede, Victory Day, is a religion for the Russians. You might want to call them Orthodox Christians, but they're not. They're really not. Their religion is a death cult. They really love you if you die for nothing. So, 9th of May, they usually bring out massive amount of tech and weaponry and armor and everything. We already see them rehearsing. There's a truck, and in the back, Lancet drones. You all recognize a Lancet by the X-shaped wings. This is, I have to say, a very good drone, quite cheap and very mass-producible. Now we have Geran or Shahed, however you want to call it. This is also in the back of a truck. And then we got this one, T-34, baby. Yes, they always bring out their T-34s. I think even more than Russians love to praise death, they get so horny about these T-34s. Everybody wants to see them at the parade. And yeah, they're practicing. Also for the reason that most of the T-72s, 60s, T-80s, 90s, they're all in the front. So I don't think we're going to see a massive amount of numbers in this parade. Now we jump to Ukraine and we go to Budanov because he made a comment that might slip your attention, but I caught it because I want the world to know, Ukraine's intelligence chief Kirill Budanov about the Finnish volunteers in Ukraine. There are Finnish people fighting for Ukraine. I mean, there are Estonians also, about 30, 40 of them, I know, across the fronts. I know some of the Jews, and there are more Finnish guys. Most of them have only a conscript training from Finland. Some of them have more experience. They have gone to missions in Afghanistan, in Iraq. But most of them are conscripts, and this is what Budanov said about them. I quote, "I do not want to offend anyone, but Finnish fighters are from another planet compared to fighters from other countries." And I do believe it. There's no need to justify. I mean, grandfathers fought the Winter War, the Continuation War. Ever since then, they were kind of forced to be neutral, not join NATO or nothing. And now they can finally, forgive me for using this kind of reference, but come out of the closet with their Russian hatred, because there's so much of that in Finland. They were kind of not allowed to show it for a little bit, politically actually, at least diplomatically. But now it's all out on the table. They don't like the Russians. They're not afraid to show it, and they definitely show it in Ukraine. Let's talk a little bit about how Ukrainian warfare tactics have changed in the last year. Actually, they started changing ever since the failed counteroffensive of 2023 summer. We all know it failed. They didn't take back ground. They lost a lot of equipment and a lot of men. And after that, Ukraine has been mostly on the defense. And what we have seen, Ukraine has pivoted to a drone-based defense. Most of the gains you see Russia making right now are coming as a result of one of two things. A, inferior Ukrainian drone units, or B, overwhelming numerical superiority. Let's open that up. What is a drone defense? Drone defense means Ukraine is knowingly using less troops in some frontal areas and more drones. But that means that if Russians do break through at some areas or push forward from some kill boxes or kill areas, then they do take ground because there's no reserves to counterattack that. Usually in the traditional defense line, almost any country would use it. You have the frontal, iron wall, and then you have the reserve troops whose job is immediately to counterattack if any kind of position is lost. Well, Ukraine doesn't have that. They have massive amount of drones. They inflict a lot of damage on that. But if the Russians push through of certain areas or take certain positions, that ground is lost, there will be no counteroffensives. That is a drone-based defense. What it means, it lessens Ukrainian losses, manpower losses, big time. It minimizes them, but it gives ground sometimes to the Russians. Also, it maximizes Russian losses while using minimum amount of Ukrainian manpower, if that makes sense. It's a different tactics than what the Russians are using. Russians are using push, always, all the time, everywhere. Let's zoom out a little bit and look at this conflict, this war from the bigger picture. I'm talking about Beijing and Tehran, Iran and China. Both of these countries, Trump is pushing them around, trying to think, like he has some kind of illusions that he has some kind of leverage over these countries. Even if he should have money leverage or economic leverage, it's still up to these countries and the leaders of them just to say no or F you to Trump, and they are doing that. Iran is doing that specifically. Trump has the ability to push that button, give that order, and bombard Iran back to medieval ages, and still you have the Ayatollahs saying F you to Trump. What's going on? This is because of the Ukrainian war. Aggressor Russia went unpunished for 3 years of full-scale invasion on European soil. That is sending a very clear message to everybody who is against the current world order, United States-led world order. Maybe not anymore so much, but it sends a clear message to Iran and China that now in the 21st century you can attack your neighbors and it's okay. You will go unpunished. nothing will happen to you. That's the message that Iran is taking and Beijing is taking. And that's why Trump now has a very harsh realizing coming to him that he cannot really control Iran and China anymore with his harsh words or impulsive tariffs or trade wars. It doesn't have an effect. He will have to cave. The message you must send is to punish Russia as an aggressor. The message that this will send to Iran and to China is that if you try something, you will get punished. But right now the message is different. This is why we see Houthis being so active on the Red Sea, shooting at Western ships with drones. They are funded by Iran. Iran also sends thousands of drones to Russia. Russia is also supported by China. It's all connected. You don't punish Russia, you let all these other guys off the hook also. It's all connected. You cannot separate these things. But Trump doesn't understand this. Just to illustrate the point again, this I bring to you just happened actually 18th of April, Red Sea. This is a French frigate in the Strait of Hormuz. They opened fire against the Houthi drone. They shot it down. But this is a military vessel. There's plenty of tankers, oil tankers. A massive amount of world trade goes through that strait. And Houthis are very active there. They're funded by Iran. If Iran would be gone, the Houthis couldn't do nothing. And Iran is so bold because he sees that a big act of aggression in 21st century against Ukraine goes unpunished. That sends a message to them, and then we have this Houthi problem. And Trump is going to have to react to it. He bombs Yemeni. He bombs Yemen. He has bombing campaigns. But he doesn't understand that it all begins with Russia. And I will end this video with a positive message, and I always love to see that. Japan to provide Ukraine with $3 billion from Russian assets. What does it mean? Now, it doesn't mean that Russian assets, the frozen assets, will be sent to Ukraine. What it means is every country who has these assets, they're frozen. They have been there for 3+ years, and they generate profits because of interest. And we're talking about tens of billions, in some countries, hundreds of billions of dollars of Russian frozen assets, which generate a percentage or two a year. And with 3 years, boom, you suddenly have 3 billion just standing as profits, which is not part of the original Russian assets frozen. And you can do whatever you want with those profits. That's not taking some other country's property, it's the profits. And that's what the countries are sending to Ukraine. So in a way, it's Putin's money in the West generating profits will be sent to Ukraine, which will use it to make drones and tanks and BTR-4s and everything to fight Putin. It's a very ironical circle. All right, my friends, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for being here and trusting your time with me. I promise to take it seriously. I will be back for you on Wednesday and Friday also, and also Saturday for channel members. If you're a channel member, if you're not, join up. It's only 99 cents per month. It's nothing, but you get 4 extra videos per month, every Saturday. Until my next video, my friends, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.